Good evening, and it's about 6:17, 18 p.m. on Thursday evening, May the 6th, and calling the ad hoc committee of the city clerk's office function committee to order, which is composed of 5 members of the city council, and we were appointed by the president of the city council to sit down and discuss the position of the city clerk and assistant city clerk, and making some types of changes as time goes on. So to my right, we have Councilor Rodriguez, and to my left, we have Councilor Nicastro, and we also have Councilor Thompson. Councilor Monahan, unfortunately, is busy at his job tonight and probably will not be able to attend with us. So at the same time, I also want to make mention, too, that our attorney, Shannon Resnick, is here, and we appreciate her participating with us this evening as well. So, councilors, last week we had a pretty good meeting, nourishable and everything, and different things were discussed. I would think at this time that we might want to just go back and review a few of the things that were said, but at the same time, I know we also asked, and I know Councilor Thompson was good enough and sent us some information in regards to different positions, city clerk and assistant city clerk job description, primarily city clerk and everything from different areas and different towns. And I think, Councilor Rodriguez, you gave us one that evening as well that to come from, did you say Fall River was or New Fall River, right? Okay, and we also had that information. I think we're trying to stay on track to what we can do, and I think legal counsel would agree we're limited to what we can do based upon the charter that the city of Brockton has, and also based upon the fact that we are also governed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts through the Secretary of State's office. So there are things we can change, and that only comes under the foster of what the ordinance may be and what it says to some things that we can and cannot do. So, you know, these are the things that we need to still be wrestling with. I did mention just this evening, councilors, and just a couple of minutes ago, talking with the legal counsel, that we had also discussed the importance of having a legal person here all the time in the clerk's office for the city council to work with, as well as the assistant city clerk and the city clerk in itself. So I'm just going to ask her to maybe more or less give us a little rundown, a touchdown of what she thinks of that, because she's been serving as our legal counsel, and I think we'll hear some positive of that. So I'm just asking you if you could give us just some thought that you have on that, since you've been working at this end with us, ordinance committee, and also through finance. So
yeah, I've mentioned in prior statements with the clerk's office and the other counselors, I think it's a great idea. I work close to full-time for the city, depending upon what you have on your agendas. I'm certainly around budget time, and especially over the last 3 years with the marijuana work that the council's done. So I'd be in support of seeing myself there on a more regular basis, so that you can call me and I'm working and able to do something in City Hall.
Right. In other words, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in sometimes, which councilors were mentioning, where we'd be, placed in a position where we'd have opinions coming from, the city solicitor, and then, whether you may not be here or that person may not be here, and then we can't continue on with the meeting because we're waiting for another, decision to come from, and we would have to postpone or even table a meeting and wait an extra, which, it doesn't hurt us, but it doesn't help us.
Yep, and it would also give me advance notice as to what items might need the law department's input. So usually I wait till I see an agenda, and then I look at it and I say, okay, actually that's outside my capacity as legislative counsel. That's something that you're going to want to hear from the law department for. But we'll be able to take care of that a lot quicker when I can see things in the work and in the clerk's office.
Right, which is good. I don't know if any other councilors wanted to chime in at all. Councilor Rodriguez, you want to chime in?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think we have to go back to what the resolve actually said when we first filed the resolve, that it was to look at the position of city clerk, the assistant city clerk, the clerk of the council, and also the functionality of the clerk's office and the clerk of the council. So I think discussing legal counsel is well within the purview of the resolve, since that also kind of looks into, how to make that office function a little bit better for us that are here on a part-time basis to help us get the job done. So I think it's well within the preview of the resolve for us to look into that as well, and make a recommendation to the entire body, suggesting that I think that's the way we see it, and I think it's long overdue. When you sit down and look at it, some of these other city councilors, council in different towns and different cities and things like that are functioning as such, and we are not. And I think, as Council Thompson said the other day, that we're not looking to be full-time city councilors, but we need to be, we need to have the tools in place that we can function as full-time counselors, not necessarily getting paid full-time, but function as full-time counselors. And right now, it's very difficult for us to do any of that stuff with the way things are in terms of the supporting cast that we have. I think we're selling our community short, and it's something that we need to seriously look at and, put some resources behind it, and not worry about what the naysayers and the noisemakers are going to say, because no matter how you look at it, it doesn't matter. If you say black, somebody's going to say white. If you say pink, they're going to say purple. So no matter what you say, somebody's always going to find something to contradict what you're doing. But as I mentioned last time that we got together, that we need to do what's best for the residents and citizens of this city, and let the complaints and let the issues fall where they may, and do what we think is best, so that we can function as the legislative body that we are, with the responsibilities that we have. But we need to have the supporting cast in order for us to do that. So I'm hoping that, as we finish this whole process, that we're going to have a real report to go back to the whole body in terms of the steps that we need to take to make that office, in the office of the city council, function as it should, as it needs to be,
Right.
for the city of 100,000 plus people that we are.
Right, totally agreeable with you, because once we do our task, we have to keep in mind there are other six other people that are gonna be taking a look, as well as the assistant city clerk, and even the outgoing clerk can take a look too. If we've done something that shouldn't be, then we can, go through that. But Councilor Nacastro, do you have any thought in regards to, what we're just talking about, as well as, we touched based on it last week, but having legal counsel, I think you were pretty much.
I'm very glad, I'm very pleased that legal counsel is
Okay.
here. I
Yeah.
think she adds value at every meeting. And I'm just ready to get down to it.
You just want to get done and go home? No.
No.
Didn't you? Councilor Thompson, any input?
On the issue of legislative counsel being involved in these discussions, yeah, I mean, I think it was one of the things that I proposed at the beginning of our conversation. I think Attorney Resnick and her experience, and I think it's always valuable to this council, and to be able to access that experience and knowledge, throughout the day. If we want to pop in, have a conversation, if I'm speaking with Tim, Mr. Cruz, or the clerk, or anybody else, the legislative counsel being in the office, it's readily looped into that conversation. Some synergies, I think, can develop through having legislative counsel in the office. So I support it, and I look forward to keep talking about it to see how we can make it happen.
Very good. Which we're gonna continue to do as we go on, even when we call for our next meeting. And any other new thoughts you have, Councilor Rodriguez? I mean,
No, I think I like your idea as we move forward, where we have to roll up our sleeves and look at the various job descriptions that we're looking at, to have a frank discussion about it. Everybody takes a red pen and goes through it and cross out what we need to cross out, add what we need to add, and then come up with a document that we can present to the body. But, we're not redesigning the space shuttle here. This
Right.
is something that I believe could be done within the next couple weeks or so. So, before, budget hearings come around, we're done with this particular thing, because I think, we're basically, I think, halfway there. We've gotten quite a few samples from a variety of places, some cities that are about the same size as our city, with the same issues that we might have, or the same form of government that we possess. I think we grab that and we kind of tweak it so that it looks and is a Brockton job description, and puts in what we want to put in that we've been talking about for quite some time, as far as the supporting cast that we should have. And I think we move along and kind of, I see us being done within the next couple, 2-3 weeks, and we're done with this stuff, because then we can move into something else. I think the idea that we talked about the other day, where at least some of us talked about looking at, expanding the city council in terms of having more committees that looks into personnel issues. I think that kind of goes along with what we are talking about in terms of making sure that we implement some sort of a job performance process in the city. Because and I was just talking to Attorney Resnick about this a few seconds ago, because if you are an ordinance position, technically you don't work for the mayor, or you don't work for another department head. You work for the folks that sets up the ordinance, which is the city council. So in terms of how these positions are viewed, whether or not you have to look at their salaries, what you're going to do with their salaries, I think it's the job of the city council. So I think it makes sense for us to have a committee in the city council that looks into whether we call it HR, personnel, or whatever else we call it, a standing committee of the city council that looks at this particular thing on a yearly basis to review, to make sure that we're paying individuals what we should be paying them, that we're not competing with other communities, that looks at and says, well, maybe that position is a little more overpaid versus this particular one, but right now we don't have anything in place. I mean, here we are talking in 2021 that we don't have a job description for a city clerk. And this council has been in existence for over 100+ years. We should have had something in place. That it's not something that we're talking about now, but I think that's what that committee could be, a key committee of this body to look into these issues as we move forward, and do it on a regular basis. I mean, we should not, we were just talking the other day at the council meeting about the director of BEMA, who hasn't had a raise in 10 years. That's an ordinance position. And the city council needs to kind of be proactive in looking at these things and saying, we should not put the city in a bind in a way where, there possibly could be lawsuits because we're violating labor laws, because we're not reviewing these things. And unfortunately, we signed up to be city councilors. No one put it, a gun to our head or held it again, held us hostage to do this job. So we decided that we were going to run for it. So we're here now, and I think it's important for us to basically act accordingly as we move forward to make sure that we get the job done the way it should be, it should get done with the supporting cast that we had talked about. Because I can't ask.
Easy now.
Forgetting about this.
Easy, yeah.
I keep forgetting we're in the cage.
Thank God it wasn't glass.
We can't continue to ask councilors to do a variety of things and taking care of constituent issues as well as all these other issues that come across if we don't have the supporting cast to help us with it.
Which is something that we drastically need. And not to get off track a little bit, but it always, to this day, it always hits my head to even some of the things that come before finance. I ask, why is it before finance? Now you have more people coming in, new councils that come in the last few years. I know some of the new ones that just came in recently and asked the question, why is that before finance? Even general public.
Correct.
Ask, why, you're there
Correct.
all night till 10, 11 o'clock, and
right.
aren't you supposed to talk about the A, B, C, D
yeah.
things about appropriations? That's what we should be, not because
We don't
the
have
dog
the
catcher
tools.
needs 2 dogs. Well, I mean, or whatever, but still, it does, it amazes me still. And it never, I know that they say that's where you do your work, but on the school committee, we
don't
did
do
it differently.
Honestly, I don't think we do it in finance at all,
No.
because there's no way you can do anything with 11 members.
No.
You'd be here forever.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes questions come up and you just want to ask a quick question, but you can't because you got to go through the whole
And-
process.
How many times you've had something before you and you have the right person here to answer that question, so what happens? Postpone, table it, you wait, then that person comes in, well, no one told me I was supposed to be.
Yeah, committees have to work a little bit better, I think, you know.
The
and
committees
that's
do,
what we need
there
to
has
do.
to be a redefiance of what the committees are all about, to be truthful with you. You know, I mean, we had public safety earlier, and one time when I was on public safety, you did everything. What you had before you tonight, you had the cabs before you, that's when you had Brockton cab, yellow cab, you had them lined up here, you know, I mean, it was unbelievable. You spent 2 hours, 3 hours on public safety, and then all of a sudden, oh, you don't have to do that anymore, boop. How did it just get
Right,
blown away?
right.
I never could understand that.
Right,
How did that
right.
just go, well, I think I know how, because we didn't have an assistant city clerk
Yeah.
that was here at that point to do some of the things that need to be put in place to come before the council, but,
I mean, we've got a brand-new industry now, the marijuana industry.
yeah,
That's something that didn't exist in 2019. It started in
Exactly.
2019, 2020. And it's a brand-new industry, and like, now, we got to look at it and saying, okay, we've got a certain responsibility over the marijuana industry in this city, but whose committee is it? You know, shouldn't it be assigned to perhaps public safety to look at it, you know, to make sure that they're doing the right thing, and then bring it to the full body in the sense, because I think the 5 members of a committee, it's easier to kind of go back and forth with something than it would be with 11 members. So some of those things, I think we got to look at it and redirect it in the right place so that it's not coming to 11 members altogether where you don't feel that you can't get your question answered, you know, and then you're in a situation where folks are watching us at home saying, well, you're not asking the right questions. But it gets to a point where it's like, you know, there's 11 of us asking questions. I mean, the poor person is going to sit here and answer the questions 11 different times, 11 different ways.
Yeah.
And I think we got to be a little more smart about doing some things. And I mean, I think the Boston City Council has close to 20 committees. You know, yeah, they're full-time or whatever, but that's the same thing is true for a lot of the other smaller communities that are part-time based like we are, but they have committees that they can refer things to committee, and then it comes back to the full council for a vote, and it's done.
It's all
But we
over.
sit here kind of rehashing things over and over and over again because it goes to finance, and then all of a sudden, it goes to the full body, and then it comes back to finance, and it's back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes we're just kind of wasting time with things that we should be moving things forward, or not do it as well as we could be doing it, you know, because we don't have the committees to work at it.
There's no doubt, there's definitely some work that needs to be done there. There's no doubt about that. I think the other issue, and I mean, we're not gonna attack it tonight, because that's something that we have to attack ourselves as the ad hoc committee, but, you know, we also have heard from our own colleagues and outside people too about, you know, how's the next step gonna work when you do have the opening of the city clerk, its office and position, and is that gonna be advertised? That's come about anywhere I've gone, and people have asked that, and, you know, that's something we have to wrestle with. But
Well, you
we'll-
know,
we'll get to that.
Mr. Chairman, we are putting together a job description for a purpose.
Right.
So if we're putting a job description, it's for the purpose of advertising a position. Now, like I said earlier, I think the person who's the assistant clerk now is probably the most qualified individual to do that job to begin with. But I think we got to do our due diligence and go through the process of making sure we're doing the right thing. Because if Jesus Christ shows up and applies for that position, what are you going to say? Well, I'm not going to give it to Jesus because I gave it to Moses, you know? But I think it's...
I'd ask him if he had a degree.
Huh?
I'd ask him if he had a degree.
Yeah, you do that, you know? But I think we need to do that, and just to be transparent as we go forward, put it out there so that we're, you know, no matter how things were done in the past, this is the way we're going to do things in the future. And I think it makes, you know, we're taking the initial step of making sure we have a job description, because then if we're just going rubber stamp it the way it's been done in the past, there will be no need to do this.
Right,
You know.
exactly. No, I totally agree. Any other thoughts and comments, Mr.
No, I think we have what our marching orders are, and now, like you said, it's roll up the sleeves and get the job done time.
You feel a little bit more relieved than you did the last time when we came in, just to know just what we were going to.
Right. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always a big picture guy. What are we trying to accomplish? and then from there, work our way down into the minutia. And so if we have our overall idea of what we're trying to accomplish, then we can knock them off one at a time. I think developing, Moises, the job description that you put together, I think is a fantastic beginning of really figuring out what we're looking for in that job. And now we just got to keep moving down the line. Assistant clerk. I think clerk of the council, for me, I'm not really sure what their job is. I mean, I know they assist us, but I would like to clarify what kind of function that is. And I think we were talking about whether that would be a separate full-time job or keep it as a collateral duty. So, we got to talk about that. Is that going to be the beginning of our staffing person?
Right.
Or will it remain in a collateral duty of a other clerk who is focused on city hall issues? So
Right.
those are further discussions I think we need to have.
I think we also have to take a thought too, when the time does come, it is under our jurisdiction, so we make the decision to when. But, we'll have some rocky waters because you're gonna get close to election too at the same time that you're gonna have this before, so we need to make that,
Well, that's why I think I said,
Yeah.
in 2-3 weeks, we should be done with this stuff and
with
get
this
it
stuff
over
here,
with.
and then, but at the same token, when the position
Yeah.
becomes vacant, I mean, there is, I may be wrong, and the legal counsel can correct me, but there's still a stagnant point before we can actually put a person even in as, city clerk too. You have to, it just isn't a bing, bang, boom.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think, we have now an installed assistant city clerk
Right.
that once the position becomes vacant, that person could become an interim clerk.
Right.
Until such time that we're ready to move forward with the position of clerk. And I think that person has all the powers and responsibilities of the clerk until such time that we can do that. So I think we're in a good position in the sense, but I think it was you hear back from the community of what took place, what didn't take place, but I think the move was the right move.
Right.
Putting somebody in there that has some experience
I
in
agree.
city government to hold that position until such time that we appoint a full-time city clerk into that position. And it's not like, because think about this, if we had not done that, the clerk leaves, and now we've got a vacancy in an empty clerk's position for as long as it takes us to find somebody. So this way here, you kind of roll a person right into that position, and that person can lead that office for as long as need be until we're ready to go with the clerk's position.
Right.
And I think that's the way we go about doing it. And, take whatever time we need to make sure we do it the right way so that we can minimize the criticisms that we get. I mean, I don't care about criticism, but we can, you want to make sure that it's not, 90% of your population criticizing you, as long as it's the handful of like I said, the noisemakers, they're going to continue to make noise, and that's perfectly fine. But we want to make sure that we do what we think is in the best interest of the entire city and go forward with that.
Because your chances of doing this, again, for us anyways, is nil and void, to be truthful with you.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I mean, so we might as well do it and do it the right way and make sure that everybody's pleased with it, for us being the ad hoc committee to make this change, or you would have just went on continuing to go on, and you can't. It's a different timeframe.
Mr. Chairman,
And that's
before I
why-
go, just before, so that I don't forget, I also sent this copy to Attorney Resnick in the sense, and we made a couple little
Okay.
Tweaks in
changes
there.
to a few things in terms of putting in, there's a budget line item now in terms of, the budget line item, item there in terms of the budget, how to deal with the budgets, both for the city council and the clerk's office as well, and some duties and things like that. I think she has the most updated one. So perhaps we can get a copy of that, and the next time we get together, then we'll have that one instead of
we
the
can
one
take-
that I passed.
Yeah,
on to you.
no doubt, because we're gonna need to have to take a look at that anyways as we continue on with the other things.
Yeah, and like we said,
have the
we're not
original.
reinventing the wheel. Other communities have done this, utilizing those same templates, that we're utilizing it, so we're not inventing anything. It's nothing new. It's just being tweaked so that it makes sense for Brockton.
Right.
And I think if we get that from her, we will be able at least to have a foundation of some things that we wanted to get started on. And then
Right.
when we get back together again, at least we are that much more ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, legal counsel, you're gonna be working with us the remainder of the time as much as you can, good, so that way there we can get it together, because we do wanna have it at ample time, because looking at the budget calendar and everything, that's gonna be,
Early June.
the president wanted to do away, you never can do away with the days you wanna do, because you know how it works, it can't be done. It looks like you can change it, but it never works that way, so you have to put in the time, but we want to make sure we have something by then, and, because it's going to have to go back to council, it's going to be discussion, and if there's any ordinance change, then it's going to come back to us, which is good.
Correct.
And we make that change because we're serving as the ordinance committee as well, which is probably the best thing that could be. Only made sense for that to happen, and then we go forward with that. Like I've said to some people, we're just an ad hoc committee. We're not an ordinance committee, so the way we work it is the way we want to work it. So that's our job. Same way I did remember we had problems with Aquaria back in 2015? I put you and Councilor Sullivan on and one other councilor to go to work, and you were great with yelling at them, so I said, keep yelling at them. And then they brought us this big foolish book. And you were like, I'm not looking at it, yeah. But anyhow, that was my ad hoc committee, and they got their work done. It was this thick, Aquaria. That was another issue. It still is an issue.
It's still an
Yeah,
issue.
we need to sell more water, really, but we'll get there, I hope.
Mr. Chairman, I just
Counsel.
lastly to wrap it up, I just want to piggyback on the conversation. So I think it's extremely important that we get the clerk, the city clerk position, the qualification, all of that squared away, signed off by this committee, get it to the city council, get it to the ordinance committee, because as we all know, this issue is going to become live very soon. I understand the point of taking our time and leaving the assistant clerk standing in the shoes of the clerk until we can until we decide on who our clerk will be. But again, that's such an important position that I think that we need to give it its due time, but not more time than necessary. And that's why if we can get this work done, get it through all the committees, we can time it well with when the expected time of the clerk is to leave, post the job, leave it open for whatever time we believe is necessary, and then make the decision.
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty well agreeable to
Yeah.
that, and with our legal counsel here, Attorney Resnick, helping us, it'll definitely be a great plus as well, so we'll be able to get through those things.
Yep.
We'll set, I'll talk to you about dates before we leave, we'll talk about a couple of dates. Next week would be tough for me, because I got the mayor's got me involved in a couple of things, and I got the Huntington School roof on that committee over there with the school department, so I got a couple of things going next week, right at like 4 o'clock, everything happens at 4. You know what I'm saying? So, we'll go the following.
I think we need to meet next week, though.
Huh?
I think we need to meet next
We
week.
can fit one in if we.
Come in, like, even if it's at 7 o'clock or some other
we
different
can.
time like
No,
that.
we can.
Because we don't have to worry about television or anything
can.
like that if we're meeting.
We have council Monday, we could probably either play around with the Wednesday or Thursday again, or something like that.
Right,
Yeah, I think so.
Tuesday's ZBA, so
Yeah.
Which-
You got-
Tuesday would be
Tuesday's
ZBA,
Yeah,
so.
I don't wanna do anything like that.
Yeah.
When, Monday? Yeah, because we don't have to,
But you said,
we don't
what
have
do we
to
got Monday night?
advertise it or
We
anything.
got council?
Like if we can come 6:15 for finance on Monday.
Is
Actually,
Monday finance or council? Council's Monday.
Monday, yeah, council, that's what we think.
We could, well, we
Show you the drafts that
we can, yeah. That's probably what we'll,
I think that might work best.
probably piece that together, and then we can just go to council, and we can
Right.
take a look at that, and then we can go from that point, yeah. Okay, that works. Anyone else got any,
So what time on Monday?
well, I would say we'd probably come in, what, 6 or 6:15? 6:15?
15,
Yeah, we'll
okay.
come in Monday at 6:15, and then we'll view what we gotta take a look at, and then we can go from that point, and then we can set you know, we have to do another night next week or go into the following week, you know what I'm saying? We still got time,
Right.
yeah, because the following week would be
We gotta
finance.
we gotta get it to the council, perhaps the following week.
Yeah, he wants at least by May, he wanted to see it at least May 30th anyways.
Yeah, because next week is council, then it's finance, and then the following is council. I think for that council meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
We ought to have that thing
We
back.
should have it back.
Because we are going into summer session, and that's going to chop us off at our knees when it,
Right.
Yeah,
you
once-
know, so
once
we
you
got to get
Once
moving.
you get into June and the budget and everything, yeah, it does. All right. So we'll work that. Anything else, councilors?
No, Mr. Chair.
Well,
No.
good.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I'll second that.
moved.
Motion's been made.
So moved, I second that.
Seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, and thank all that
Thank you.
Thank you.
watched us this evening. Good night,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.